Hello and welcome to part 2 of these series of marketing podcasts with Mr. Adam Pearce. Between part 1 and part 2, the breakfast arrived. Do I need to tell them who we are, the listeners who we are? M&H Breakfast Banter.
Yes.
This is Anita, who is Anita Menon, and I'm Ron Howard. Thankfully the breakfast arrived and I've already sampled it. But what is it, Anita, apart from my tea?
So, just trying this cafe for the first time. It's called Foss Cafe. How's the tea?
Tastes like tea.
Did you try your coffee?
Yes, it tastes like coffee.
Yeah, so we just had our coffee. It's nice. And we also have some stuffed croissant. You just had my croissant. This was the vegetarian one.
I didn't know it was vegetarian, but I do like falafel anyway.
Okay, so you can have it now.
Kind of unique to have it in a croissant.
So it just pairs well, does it?
Yeah,
Okay.
if you've got tea.
Yes, anything goes well with tea, I guess.
Anything goes well with tea.
So we're having a good breakfast and we'll continue our podcast.
Are you going to say a word from the sponsor?
Yes, so we're delighted that this season is sponsored by EasyPay. And you can find their POS machines everywhere in all the leading retail outlets. So thank you EasyPay for sponsoring us.
Right, off we go. So part 1 was about the macro approach to international marketing. Now we're going to go in a bit more detail in the micro. So this is really for you, Anita.
Okay.
Because after, is it 5 years of the butterfly effect?
9.
9?
Yes.
Finally, you've decided to expand your horizons.
Yes.
I guess COVID got in the way and things like that.
Yeah, it
before.
slowed us down a bit.
And
yes.
you're now looking to move outside the Kingdom of Bahrain. And Mr. Adam is going to talk about a few things that you might come across by doing that.
Sure, I'm looking forward to all the ideas.
And the first part of it is linking in with you being a successful food blogger.
Okay.
Right, so we'll bring those two together.
Okay.
So, Adam, of course, different countries have different food.
They do indeed.
In your-
Some of them very interesting.
Okay, in your quest to open up these different markets, I assume that you've needed to fit in with the local cultures.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, can you tell me some foods that Anita may well be offered when she's in, wherever it is, you decide. Tell me some of the stranger foods that you've tried that could be in store for Anita.
I have to say, the Far East will always take the biscuit on some.
The biscuit?
Take the biscuit, yeah. That's America though. That's something different.
Right.
So let's go through some of probably the candidates for the worst food that I've ever tried.
Okay.
And as you mentioned, when you're going into a new market, you have to create a relationship, and some of that relationship is them testing you out with their local food.
Are you ready?
As a Westerner who tends to eat Italian food most of the time,
Fish and chips.
Fish and chips, burger, meat. The meat, some of these are very interesting.
Come on, then let us know. Come on.
I think what I'll do is I'll do the top 5 worst, work from the 5. So the 5th worst one, or strangest one, was in Vietnam.
Okay.
And this was fried crickets and grasshoppers.
Now, how would you be with that?
Totally pass.
So,
I'll pass.
no. So you
I
won't
can
be
eat.
opening in Vietnam.
And definitely.
Okay. How did it taste, by the way?
Actually, the crickets, if I remember rightly, didn't have much of a taste, but the grasshoppers were quite chewy.
Oh no.
Right.
Oh gosh.
They don't sound so bad.
Number 4 would be in South Korea, and this is not the last entry in South Korea. Fried egg and fish eye souffle.
How about that one, fish eye souffle? Have you ever talked about that on your blog?
No.
Have you
Fish
come
eye.
across it before?
Only fish eye.
Fried egg and fish eye
Fried
souffle.
egg as well.
I can take the fried egg.
Yeah, but the fish eye makes it extra special.
Okay.
No, would you try that?
I don't think
South
so.
Korea's out.
So, South Korea's got another one on the list.
Okay.
One on the list. So number 3 would have to be balut in the Philippines.
I've had that myself.
So that was very strange, and that was actually a drunken mistake. So we were at this bar with the local distributor, and this guy on a bike comes past and says, "Do you want to try these?" Oh, yeah, okay. I opened up the egg, and there was still a bird with feathers in it.
Yeah, so it's a half. It's an egg where the chick is half born.
Oh no.
So you're getting half egg and half chick.
And you have to eat it.
Yes.
And it's kind of alive.
No,
it's
it's
not.
dead. It's dead. But it still has the feathers on, and
So you eat the feathers?
I didn't.
I did.
picked the feathers off.
Feathers taste quite good, actually.
I drew the line at the feathers. that was where I drew the line. I have to.
How about the beak?
I ate the beak.
Right.
I ate the beak.
And I mean, the egg is just egg, right?
Egg's just egg, yeah.
Just egg. So you're okay with the egg again?
Egg is fine.
It's just egg everywhere.
If it's well done.
So,
If it was well done. This one wasn't very well done.
no,
I
it's
can assure you.
runny. So Philippines is out also.
So I've debated whether to put which way 1 and 2 were, but I think I'm going to go with 2 back to South Korea. And I may butcher this name. It may be wrong. So if there are any South Korean listeners,
I hope there are.
listeners around, I apologise.
Oh, there will be after this.
But it's called sun niki or nuki.
Okay.
And basically, what that is it's octopus, uncooked, the tentacles, freshly caught uncooked octopus tentacles, and they actually still twitch.
How about that one? That gives you a tickle in your throat, won't it?
God.
So they still have nerve endings in the tentacles.
Have you had octopus before?
No.
I've had octopus. They're a bit rubbery, but
Bit rubbery,
not
but
alive.
not so. They still have the nerve endings.
But fresh then.
Fresh. Yeah. So normally it's in a one of those shops where they keep all the fish in the tanks.
And you've never had a reaction to any of this food?
I wouldn't say never, but not very often. No.
So
Wow.
career's out for you, definitely.
That's a part of your job description?
I don't say it's a part of my job description. I think let's just put it this way: if I'd have seen that on the job description, I probably wouldn't have gone for the job. But there we go. So that was a very close second. But the reason why I'm going to choose the one I've chosen first is because there's actually a little bit of a story behind the whole thing. Okay. So I spent a lot of time in Malaysia. I must have gone to Malaysia 20 times to meet my distributor. We had a good business out there. And the first time they took me to somewhere, and I can't remember what it was, but it was quite an out of the way thing to eat for a Western guy, and I just ate it, and they were quite impressed. So what they then started to do, we had a little bit of a game every time I went, so it got worse and worse and worse and worse. So I said to them, look, I'll do this, I'm happy to do this, even though you're not telling me what you're doing, I know what you're doing, as long as it's not too spicy. And it came to a crescendo the last time I was there pre-COVID, when they took me to this restaurant. And I say restaurant, it was somebody's house. Okay. And they cooked me pickled sheep's lung and pickled sheep's heart.
That's nice, no?
No.
So Malaysia's out also.
So that was the worst one. So every time I went, they got gradually worse and worse and worse. And I have to say,
It tastes really bad?
it may taste nice for them, but it didn't taste nice for me. So yeah, they're the top 5.
I guarantee you good food in Delhi.
I'm looking forward to it when I do go to Delhi.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful that will be later in this year.
Okay. So that'd be good weather in December too.
The Far East is out for you then?
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to eat any of those things.
I know a little secret about Adam, that there's a number 1 on top of the number 1.
Which is what?
Oh no. So this shall I say it? Or
No, well, let me build it up.
Okay,
I mean,
you
it's
build it.
actually what it get in Britain most of the time, and you could eat it because it's not animal, is it? It's vegetable.
What is it?
It's a vegetable, yeah.
Strangely, you can't bear the sight of it. Go ahead.
mashed potato.
Can you believe that?
I love mashed potatoes.
Mashed potato. So as a child, and we certainly are deviating from international business here. As a child, I ate some mashed, about 4 or 5. I ate some, and I was immediately ill. And ever since that time, I can, if somebody sat there, I can just about be okay with it, eating it. But if it's on my plate, I can't. I have to send the plate back.
Anyway, so I hope that we're not going to order any of those for our breakfast banter.
Thank God I didn't order mashed potatoes.
I don't think you could get any of those apart from mashed potato in Bahrain, can you?
I doubt, yeah. Don't get any of
What
that.
a shame.
Yeah. Not too adventurous.
No.
They certainly won't be on my list of meals to eat.
So
you get camel burgers here, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
What?
Camel burgers.
Oh, yeah. Well, you may well be eating those in Saudi soon. And camel tastes okay. Right, so that's the food. So we're moving on with the culture now.
Yes.
So I understand you're a Yorkshire lad.
I am.
Yes,
I am indeed.
as am I.
Tight as they come. Very mean in terms of spending money.
Well, I wasn't going in that area.
Stingy.
But you're generally culturally insensitive, correct?
As a Yorkshireman, I would suggest that most Yorkshiremen are.
Yes,
we
So-
call it God's country. So
Well, that already, that's going to upset others. Can you tell me any examples, if any, where you've been not really knowing that you're culturally insensitive, but you've ended up upsetting somebody?
So, as this job is international, I have to be very, very aware of different cultures. So, in terms of actually upsetting people, to an extent that you want me to answer, the answer is actually really no. But there are some very interesting differences which I've made myself aware of whilst going into these countries and meeting with them. So rather than saying I've upset one, I'm going to switch that round for you.
Thank you.
And give you a few interesting business cultures around the world. So one of them, we'll start with Japan, because very, very interesting business culture. And so I was sat in a meeting with the head of this retailer, I can't remember the name, and there was about 10 people either side, and he was at this end and I was at this end, and none of those spoke English, so there was a translator in the middle. So I'm sat here talking to everybody on in the panel and the translator, and I gave my presentation and I gave them, and the translator then spoke. And then for about 6 minutes, nobody said anything. Nobody said a word. If you imagine 6 minutes in a meeting
Awkward.
where nobody says anything at all.
Super awkward.
Super, super awkward. And only until the main guy said something would anybody else talk.
Whoa.
Nobody else would say a word.
Oh, so we're waiting for him.
So we're all waiting for him.
But you knew that.
I knew that, but I didn't expect it to be 6 minutes.
What did you do?
I didn't do anything because I was
you stared?
I was kind of several times I was sweating, and I'm starting to talk and translator, but then I held back, and it was definitely 6 minutes because I looked at my watch, and then he said something.
Was he thinking?
He was thinking about his answer. He was actually he was coming into whatever I'd said. He was thinking of a response very, very carefully. But all of these were doing the same thing. So once he'd spoken, it was like a whole crescendo of everybody down the table. I believe that the more important they got, the further away they got from me within the business. So the two, I don't know, account managers were here, and then you go up, vice president, president. He would speak, they would speak, they would speak, they would speak,
Amazing.
they would speak, they would speak.
What a protocol.
So very strange. And 6 minutes in a meeting is just.
Any more?
But I think them thinking and speaking is a sign of respect towards you.
Yes, yes. So Korea have some interesting cultures as well. So they are, although they're very, very friendly, the way you constructively criticise them is also very interesting. So Korea is the only place where I would suggest that I've actually upset anybody and they've stormed out of the meeting, they've walked out of a meeting. Okay. So I suggested something that we had a problem with some irons, and there was actually, they should have come from Vietnam, there was crickets in this iron, so something had gone into the iron, into the box, and I suggested it may be their warehouse. Well, one thing I didn't realise is you cannot actually suggest that it's a problem there. You have to come around that situation. So they were very upset, walked out the meeting, and left me on my own for about an hour.
And then they came back?
And then they came back.
Okay.
You know what I'd say? Suck it up.
Nice.
Yeah, okay.
And then, of course, you know the Middle East, it's sometimes can be a constant battle and an argument all the time when you're in meetings, even though nothing is particularly, no hard feelings are meant, but you are constantly arguing and battling.
Definitely
Negotiations, yeah, and
Confrontation.
negotiations can be quite a challenge,
Yes,
right? In different cultures.
But then on the flip side of that, you'll have somewhere like Switzerland in Europe where you just, if you push them, if you even suggest that they need to speed up the process,
they'll freeze.
Gone.
Yeah.
Freeze.
Yeah, I've heard that, yes.
Completely gone.
Yeah. In fact, I've experienced that.
Yeah.
So in pre-pod, you also brought up the Russian method of negotiation.
Oh yeah, that was an interesting one. So I went to Russia 6 or 7 years ago. It's the only time I've ever been to Russia, and it's the only time I will ever go to Russia. Can't go there now anyway at the minute because we're banned. But I went into this meeting, and this was with Power Tools, and I was talking to a guy on the table, and we were having a good conversation. His brother comes into the meeting, puts a gun on the table, and stares at me.
Why? That's negotiation?
So
Clever woman, eh?
very, very clever. So I just
Because that kind of thing also sometimes happens in India.
so I kind of looked at him, and thought to myself, do I mention it? I thought, no, I'm just going to go back to talking. So I'm talking to him. They go back to talking to him. After about an hour, the guy takes the gun off the table, shakes my hand, and says, "That's my negotiation tactic. Well done. Nice to meet you. I'm so and so."
So you were not rattled.
I went, it worked.
Because you've seen so many movies.
I mean, I assume we wouldn't have done anything, but but I said to him, well, if it's any consolation, it certainly made me nervous. So
Obviously, that's really crazy.
We'll move on from there. So, as Anita expands, which areas of the world will she, as a woman, have the advantage?
That's a very difficult and tough question, and I think it's more industry specific than area specific.
Okay.
Because despite certain countries still moving forward towards more equality with women and men, industries still don't have that level. So the industry that I'm currently in the minute, which is babies, is predominantly women, and wherever you're talking to, I think a woman as a mother maybe, or would have more benefit actually talking and working with the distributors. When you're
Same with Morphy Richards then,
not so much
kettles
actually,
and kitchen
not necessarily as much as you think.
Because that's
That's
electronic
very
products,
misogynist,
right?
that
It's electronic products.
It's a different
yeah.
mindset, yeah.
So it's a different mindset, and the first one that I worked in, Power Tools, in most areas of the world, it would be a massive. It wouldn't benefit you to be a woman in any way, because that is a male-dominated environment,
Yeah.
very male-dominated environment.
And I agree, because now that I'm in marketing, I am much better received as a woman on the table than, let's say, women at the table, and as compared to when I was a supply chain consultant and going into warehouses and inventory and those kind of things where there were only men.
Yeah.
And it was harder to kind of establish myself there.
Very, very industry specific. I know there are still some countries that it is going to be very difficult for a woman to go into and be well respected. I mentioned Japan. I think that would be quite hard, because there's a lot of, how to describe this in a word, I would call it machismo, which is very machoisms. Mexico is quite similar. I haven't done a lot in Mexico, but that is quite similar. and I believe a lot of South America is very similar to that as well. And of course, the Middle East can also be quite difficult. I
And
think.
I think it's different in Bahrain, particularly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come here more often, you'll see it's a lot different in here.
I've been a few times, and there is a certain difference in Bahrain. But so very industry specific. I think in
Right.
the
I
industries
agree.
you're working in.
Yeah.
So I think we've established that you have quite a good social life when you go into these countries as part of business. Yeah? There's the working time, and then you get taken out. Are there any countries where there isn't any social time afterwards with the distributor, the agent, the customer or whatever?
There aren't many. The one that springs to mind the most is Taiwan.
So you just finish work at
So the way that the day tends to work when you're working with a distributor or a retailer, so you get picked up around 10 o'clock, you'll have a few hours meeting with them, you'll then go for lunch, you'll have a few hours meeting with them, you'll then get dropped at the hotel, you'll then get picked up and you'll go out somewhere else. That's the general gist of the day. So you're always on show. You can be with them from 10 o'clock until 12 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning until 12 o'clock at night. Always.
Are you ready for that?
No, I sleep at 10.
Okay.
Sleep at 10. All right. Well, that's the rule that you have with them.
Right, right.
You take me home at 10, I go to sleep.
But not Taiwan.
But not Taiwan, no. They pick me up at 10, drop me off at 3, bye-bye, see you later. See you in the morning. And it's very, very alien.
That's not what you're used to.
It's not what I'm used to. And in some respects, as a break, it's actually quite nice.
So you can do what you want to do.
Yeah. And some countries, so Taiwan's the main one. There's been a couple of European countries that have done something similar. Poland, in my experience, a few times I've been there, one of them took me out, but the rest of them didn't bother.
I think just work is work. I appreciate that kind of culture.
No, but I thought you should know what you're getting yourself into. Huh?
You have to create that relationship. You have
But
to.
is that important to always go out to create that relationship? Why can't it happen through work only?
Particularly in the Far East and in Africa, they want to test you out. They want to test you out. They want to see you as a person. They want
trust,
to build trust. And actually, I've got more business done over a meal and a drink than I have in meetings before, many, many times. Many, many times.
So get ready for this.
Amazing, because this is the biggest criticism I've always faced since I came into business, because I do not do that social thing at all.
If it's something, and so when you get to a point of knowing the customer, you can say to them, I don't want to go out tonight, I want to go on my own.
So that's the comfort level you share.
So that's the comfort level that you share. But certainly for the first few times that you're meeting that person, I always go out with them. And some cultures won't take you out till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Well, we won't talk about what you get up to there.
No, that's probably for a different podcast.
So you brought that up. You've got, you've made a relationship with distributor, whatever, and they want to take you out, and well, maybe I don't want to go to a restaurant this time. So you see areas or battlefields, in fact, or tourist places that, well, not tourist places, but places where the average tourist wouldn't go. Can you give some examples of that? Do the South African one.
Okay. So I'm very interested in history, and particularly military history. It's a passion that Ron and I share. And one of the countries that I've spent a lot of time in is South Africa. So I was quite lucky enough to be able to go. So in South Africa, I've done a few things. I've been on a private safari. I've stroked some cheetahs. I've fed elephants there. But also we've been to some battlefields that were very far out that nobody tends to go and visit because they're so far out the back, away from the tourist centre.
Lovely.
Have you seen the movie Zulu?
No.
Well, I suggest you watch it, then you'll know where he's been.
Places like the Chai Chu tunnels in Vietnam, Batu Caves in Malaysia,
Those are famous.
several smaller temples with beautiful things in them in Thailand. One of the benefits to my job, which isn't in the description, is because I travel so much and we get to know these people, you often get, yes, the tourist places, but you get to see different sides of those tourist places. Like the Batu Caves, we went into a special cave that nobody goes into, things like that. It's really
amazing perks of
amazing perks. And you go back to food. A lot of the food is not that bad. I remember in South Africa we had a meal under Table Mountain. I had a meal over the Sydney Opera House. So at one point I was eating caviar and drinking champagne over the Sydney Opera House with the distributor.
I think you can manage that, can't you?
I think you might be able to manage that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there are several things like that actually do make the job a significant perk.
Yeah.
And you get to see cultures in a different light that you don't get to see by going to it for one day on a cruise or something like that.
So has that made you less tolerant or more patient?
It's made me more aware. I don't know whether it's actually probably made me less patient at home, because as a Brit, a lot of people in Britain are probably a little bit insular.
And they don't believe
and they don't believe what you see and what you say and what you do. So actually, in terms of when I'm back home, it does make me a little bit less patient, and I end up just not telling people what I've done and my experiences because they're not really interested.
You should start a podcast.
Maybe I should.
Or a travel blog.
Or a travel blog. But I am fortunate to be able to do what I do and have been to so many places.
That's extraordinary.
Right, so this could be your new life.
I'm just going next door.
That's only the beginning. But I'm a bit concerned about your narrow food appetite.
Yeah, very.
And your inability or wishing not to ever socialise. That's going to hold you back, Anita.
I think so. I have to change, I guess.
When you're talking about opening markets as well, you also get some extremely amazing experiences. I was able to. I mentioned off the podcast about the Korean television. I gave a speech when we were opening the market in South Korea at the British Ambassador's house with the British Ambassador to South Korea. Experiences like that you wouldn't actually get anywhere else. Yeah. It was actually quite funny. I thought I was really good. Gave the speech to all the journalists in English, and I thought, I'm going to learn some Korean just at the end, just to give them a little bit of thank you in Korean. So I did that. Korean ambassador, the Korean ambassador from Britain to South Korea came on, gave it all in Korean. I just went
entirely in Korean.
Entirely in Korean. I'm just like.
So perhaps you'll finish this in Arabic. No. Okay. Well.
Neither can we.
Shukran.
Oh yes.
So did you learn anything there? That
Absolutely.
maybe you're not the right person to expand too far into the world.
Yeah, I'll just stay just around here.
To do the job that I do, you have to be. And most people who do the job that I do have to be very comfortable with other people, but also very comfortable on their own.
Very fearless. I think what you do is quite extraordinary, and I think you shouldn't take for granted what you do. It's not easy to do what you do.
No,
I think he's had some good mentors in his life, whoever they were.
Whoever they were,
yes,
I've had some good mentors.
And on that note, I think we've come to the end of it.
Yes.
I feel bad just bringing this in. We should have had some exotic food.
Yeah, this is just
sheep's brain or
well, it was nice, wasn't it?
or something.
You should try the sandwich.
Well, falafel is actually Arabic.
It's pretty nice.
What's in that one? What's in that one?
It's egg.
Oh, have you had egg before?
A few times.
Right, okay.
On the side. On the side.
Yeah, usually with some eye, fish eye.
Just some bird lying around.
I'll have to open and see.
Okay, we'll leave that as a mystery.
Yes, that's a mystery thing which you can try.
I'll do it. Do you want me to do it now?
Yes, go ahead. I hope there's not mashed potato in it.
Oh gosh, if there is, I'm running out the door.
What is it?
What is it? Cheese?
Chicken.
Chicken? Oh, that's okay. You don't eat chicken, don't you?
No, I
Maybe
don't.
you'll need to. Yeah, well, I hope you've enjoyed that podcast anyway.
Yeah,
Talk us out.
it was a delightful conversation. So much
you very much.
exposure that I actually could see you sitting in that Japanese table. I could imagine all of that. And what you must be feeling at that point in time. It's not easy what you do, Adam, and fantastic on that. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
And
Thank you very
spending
much.
this time. Yeah.
Thank you for having me, and it was a pleasure to tell my story to people who will listen.
And hopefully we'll have you back when you visit Bahrain once again.
Yes, I'll be back at some point, probably later in the year.
And we can talk about more stories and,
Oh,
more
there's
travels.
several more. But maybe by then I'll have created some more.
Hopefully.
And then you'll have your own 7 golden rules or...
Oh, yeah, maybe I'll write
I
a book.
thought they were
Maybe
your
I'll write a
7
book.
gold.
No. They're copied, unfortunately.
Right.
So, thank you audience for watching. As usual, this was part 2 of how to market your global product locally. And we have Adam Pearce to thank for all these wonderful stories that he shared with us today in part 2. And you can find us on YouTube at MH Consultants. That's where the podcast is going to be aired. And you can also find us on Instagram at MH Consultants _BH. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.